My daughter drained my savings and sold my house before her wedding. But she didn't know who the real owner was. If you have ever had a family member mistake your kindness for weakness, subscribe to the channel and tell me where you are listening to this story from. Because what happened to me began with an empty bank account, but it ended with a wedding without a bride, a house that could not be sold, and 3 people being led away in front of more than 200 guests. My name is Evelyn Hart. I am 70 years old. And on that Friday morning, my only daughter called to tell me that she had taken all my money, sold the house I was living in, and reserved a place for me at a senior care facility. Her wedding was the next day. She thought I had no time left to do anything. She was wrong. Part 1. Zero balance. That morning, Savannah was unusually quiet. The early sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a pale golden glow across the oak tabletop my husband, Samuel, had built by hand nearly 40 years earlier. I sat in front of a cup of tea that had already gone cold. The banking app was open on my tablet. I had logged in to pay the electric bill. The day before, the account still held $438,000. That morning, the balance read $0. I refreshed the screen. Nothing changed. I logged out and signed in again. Still zero. I opened the transaction history. An electronic transfer of $438,000 had been made at 9:16 the previous morning. The person listed as approving the transaction was Olivia Hart, my daughter. I did not drop the tablet. I did not scream. I simply stared at the number for several seconds and felt a very distinct coldness spreading from my chest into both hands. That money was not spending money. It was not money for a new car. It was not an inheritance I was withholding merely to make my daughter wait. It was Samuel's life insurance money. My husband had spent 38 years running a small woodworking shop in Savannah. He never became a millionaire. He did not own a yacht or a vacation home in Europe. But he believed that a young person who knew how to work with their hands would never be completely helpless. In the final years of his life, Samuel often welcomed teenagers aging out of foster care into his workshop. He taught them how to read blueprints, how to use a saw safely, how to calculate material costs, how to walk into a job interview without lowering their heads in shame. Before he died of heart failure, he told me he wanted the insurance money used to open a vocational training center. We had already chosen an old warehouse near the riverfront. I planned to purchase it the following month. It would be called the Samuel Hart Skills Center. The $438,000 was the foundation of that project. And now my daughter had taken all of it. The phone rang. Olivia's name appeared on the screen. I turned on the recording function before answering. "You saw the account, didn't you?" she asked. No greeting. No hesitation. Only a cold question. "I saw it." "Good. I don't have much time. The decorating team is waiting for me." "Where did you transfer the money?" "Into the wedding expense account." "That was your father's money." "Dad is dead, Mom." Her voice was full of irritation. "I don't want to argue about this again. Tomorrow is the most important day of my life. Grant and I need the money to pay the remaining balance for the venue, flowers, catering, and the trip after the ceremony." "You took $438,000 to pay for a party?" "It's not just a party. It's the beginning of our future." "What about the vocational training center?" Olivia sighed. "That was your dream and Dad's. Not mine. It was his final wish." "You're using a dead man to make me feel guilty." I heard a man's voice in the background. "Grant, Olivia's fiancé. Tell her about the house too," he said. I held the phone closer to my ear. "What house?" Olivia was silent for 2 seconds. Then she said, "I sold the house." I looked around the kitchen. The white cabinets Samuel had repainted 3 times. The wall clock he bought on our first trip to Charleston. The door leading to the garden, where his ashes had been scattered beneath the old oak tree. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. You had no right to sell this house." "I have power of attorney. That document was valid only while I was having surgery." "It's still valid." "No. I revoked it 14 months ago. You just don't remember." She said it very quickly, as though she had rehearsed it in front of a mirror. I had undergone a minor heart procedure. While I was in the hospital, I gave Olivia authority to pay bills and make medical decisions if I lost consciousness. The power of attorney was valid for 60 days. After I recovered, I signed a written revocation. I sent copies to the bank, to the hospital, to my attorney's office. Olivia knew that, but she also knew that most people would panic if their own child told them their memory could no longer be trusted. You used an expired power of attorney to sell the house. I asked. You're making everything sound worse than it really is. I am still living in the house. The buyer takes possession this afternoon. And where am I supposed to go? I reserved a room for you at Meadow Pines. I knew Meadow Pines. It was a care facility nearly an hour outside the city. Why would I go there? Because you should not be living alone anymore. Which doctor said that? Grant, and I can both see that you're declining. Grant has met me fewer than 10 times. He sees things more objectively than I do. I looked at the clock. 8:11 a.m. Olivia, did you forge the documents? I didn't forge anything. Did you alter the expiration date? You don't understand the legal process. I almost laughed. I had spent 26 years as a title record examiner and deed fraud investigator for Chatham County. I had uncovered forged contracts far more sophisticated than anything Olivia could imagine. She knew I had worked in the land records office. But like many younger people, she assumed her mother's job had consisted of sitting in an old room and stamping papers. She did not know I had helped prosecutors dismantle a ring that stole homes from elderly owners. She did not know I could read a transfer file and see what everyone else had missed. She did not know Samuel and I had prepared for exactly this kind of situation. What time do you want me out of the house? I asked. Before noon. Where is the wedding tomorrow? You know where it is. You still don't want me there? Olivia was silent. Grant said something again. She lowered her voice. You refuse to support me. Having you there would make everyone uncomfortable. I am the mother of the bride. But you don't fit the image of the event. I looked down at the pale blue cardigan I was wearing. Olivia had repeatedly told me that my clothes looked outdated. She wanted everything at the wedding to be perfect for social media. Are you saying I make you look bad? Don't make this personal. You took my money, sold my house, and put me in a care facility. But I'm not supposed to take it personally. You'll be safe there. And you'll have your wedding. Yes. Her voice suddenly hardened. This is the time for me to think about my own family. Am I not your family? A long silence followed. Then Olivia said, You've already had your life. The call ended. I looked at the recording file. For minutes and 12 seconds. A confession about the money. A confession about the house. A threat concerning my mental capacity. And one sentence that erased nearly 40 years of motherhood. You've already had your life. I stood up. Outside in the front yard, a moving truck had just pulled in. 3 men climbed out. They carried cardboard boxes, packing tape, and a work order. A locksmith was with them. I picked up my phone. I did not call the police. I did not call Olivia again. I called my attorney, Naomi Brooks. Naomi had once been an assistant federal prosecutor. 7 years earlier, she had helped Samuel and me establish our estate plan. She answered immediately. Evelyn. Olivia made her move. Naomi went silent. She took the money, and she thinks she sold the house. Did you record her? Yes. Documents. I don't have copies yet. We need them. I'll get them. Don't confront her directly unless you have to. I know. Naomi exhaled. Do you want me to activate the protective plan? All of it. Are you sure? I looked through the window. The locksmith was taking his tools out of the truck. I'm sure. All right. Send me the recording. I'll contact the bank, the trust company, and the title insurance department. Don't tell Olivia yet. You want her to keep believing. The transaction succeeded? Yes. Why? I watched one of the movers walking up the front steps. Because I want to know who is really behind this. Part 2. The house emptied out. The moving cruise supervisor was named Marcus. He was about 50, wore a gray uniform, and looked uncomfortable when he saw me standing inside the house. Mrs. Hart, he asked. Yes. We were hired to remove the personal property before the new owner's inspection. Who hired you? Ms. Olivia Hart and Mr. Grant Collins. I would like to see the paperwork. Marcus handed me a work order. It listed my home address. The possession date was that day. Olivia's name appeared in the authorization signature section. Below it was a note. Elderly occupant has been scheduled for transfer to a care facility. No need to wait for direct approval. I read the line twice. Where were you instructed to take everything? Some items go into storage. Anything marked goes to an auction facility. Marked by whom? The client. Marcus pointed to the red stickers on several pieces of furniture. Samuel's dining table. His tool cabinet. The armchair where he used to sit every evening. Our wedding photograph. Olivia had entered the house while I was at a medical appointment Wednesday afternoon. She had walked through every room and decided which parts of my life were worth selling. I handed the work order back to Marcus. Go ahead and do your job. He looked surprised. You're not objecting? I'll deal with the people who hired you. We can stop if you call the police. That won't be necessary. I looked at the small camera above the hallway. Olivia had unplugged its power cord, but she did not know the backup system was still running. Just be careful with the dining table, I said. My husband built it himself. Marcus nodded. As they began carrying furniture outside, I went into Samuel's study. The desk drawer had been forced open. An old file was missing. That was where I had deliberately left a copy of the deed from before the house was transferred into the trust. Olivia had taken exactly what I thought she would take, but I needed to know what she had done with it. I sat down at the desk. Opened. My old laptop. A son in someone else's story might assume his father did not understand technology. Olivia thought the same thing about me. She laughed whenever she saw me using the thick black computer. She had no idea it contained a private encryption system and access to the land records database I was still authorized to use as a retired consultant. I signed into the county portal. A new transfer filing appeared under my address. The seller was listed as Evelyn Hart, acting through her agent, Olivia Hart. The buyer was Palmetto Coastal Investments, LLC. Sale price, $690,000. The house had been appraised at nearly $1.4 million. It had been sold for less than half its value. No time on the market. No structural inspection. No normal escrow period. A cash transaction completed in fewer than 48 hours. That was not a home sale. It was an escape plan. I downloaded the file, then enlarged my signature. It looked authentic, but the E in Evelyn was too rounded. I always wrote the E with a short, straight opening stroke. The forger had lifted my signature from another document and inserted it. The notary seal belonged to Patricia Doyle. I searched her name. Her commission was active, but her office address was a commercial mail service store. She had almost no history of notarizing real estate documents. I sent the file to Naomi. She called back almost immediately. The signature is forged. I know. The attached power of attorney was altered too. The time limit section was removed. What about the bank? The $438,000 transfer is pending settlement. I leaned back in the chair. 7 years earlier, Naomi had helped me establish dual approval for any transaction exceeding $75,000. The banking interface could show money as removed from the account. But if the transfer was made under power of attorney or sent to a new receiving account, it would be held for 48 hours. The trust administrator had to confirm it before settlement. Olivia did not know that. She had seen only the successful transfer notice. The money is still safe? I asked. It's sitting in a suspense account. I filed a fraud alert. But we need proof of intent. I have the phone. Call. We need more. I'm going to the dinner tonight. Evelyn. She'll have the power of attorney with her. What are you planning to do? Let her hand it to me. And if Grant becomes difficult, I'll be a confused old woman. Naomi was silent. You are not confused. But they believe I am. I watched the movers carrying Samuel's cabinet through the doorway. Their false belief is our greatest asset right now. Part 3. The $50 gift card. The pre-wedding dinner was held at Bellwether Hall, a historic estate outside Savannah. I arrived in a car service. I wore my old dark blue dress and a cream-colored jacket. No jewelry except my wedding ring. No makeup. I wanted Olivia to see the woman she had described to everyone. An elderly, fragile mother. Grieving. Penniless. Homeless. The grand hall overflowed with white flowers and candlelight. Servers carried champagne among guests dressed in designer clothes. A violinist performed near the staircase. A large sign on the wall read, Olivia and Grant, a future built on love. I almost had to admire the irony. Olivia stood in the middle of a group of young women. She wore a pale pink silk dress. When she saw me, her smile disappeared. She hurried toward me. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. I told you not to come. The movers took almost everything out of the house. Olivia glanced around. Lower your voice. I'm speaking very quietly. You wore that to a formal dinner? I looked down at the dress. This is the dress your father bought me for our 35th anniversary. That's exactly the problem. You're always living in the past. She gripped my arm and pulled me toward a side corridor. Do you know who is here? Grant's partners, his clients, people from the real estate industry. I cannot have them witnessing a scene. Am I a scene? You're making everyone uncomfortable. My account is empty. I already explained that. My $1.4 million house was sold for $690,000. Olivia's eyes froze. How do you know the price? I checked the records. You shouldn't be accessing things like that. This is why I need to manage your finances. Grant appeared behind her. He was about 37, dressed in a dark blue suit and wearing the confidence of a man who always assumed the room belonged to him. What's going on? He asked. My mother is panicking again. Grant looked at me with a false smile. Mrs. Hart, tonight is not the appropriate time. There is no appropriate time to ask why your home was sold. Olivia is simply doing what needed to be done. Did you buy the house? No. Then who is Palmetto Coastal Investments? His smile vanished for a fraction of a second. You should speak with an attorney. I have an attorney. Olivia tightened her grip on my arm. Are you threatening me? No. I only want to see the power of attorney. Grant and Olivia looked at one another. I lowered my shoulders. Let my voice tremble slightly. Maybe I truly am remembering it wrong. If you show me the document, I'll stop bothering you. The change in Olivia's expression was immediate. She thought I was surrendering. Grant rested a hand against her back. Show it to her. Maybe she'll calm down. Olivia led me into a small reading room. She opened her handbag and took out a packet of documents. Everything is legal. I held the papers with both hands. The first page was the financial power of attorney I had signed before my surgery. But the expiration date had been deleted. A new clause had been added. This power of attorney shall remain effective until the agent determines that the principal has fully recovered her capacity. An absurd provision. An agent cannot personally decide that her own authority should continue indefinitely. Patricia Doyle's name appeared on the notarization. I studied the inked seal. It was the same seal used on the home sale documents. You have the original? I asked. Yes. Could you give me a copy? Olivia looked at Grant. He shrugged. She can't do anything with it. Olivia handed me a copy. I folded it and placed it in my purse. Thank you. Olivia crossed her arms. Now will you leave? Where am I supposed to sleep? Meadow Pines will admit you Monday morning. It's Friday. Grant took out his wallet. He removed a gift card for a budget hotel chain. There's $50 on this, he said. Enough to find a room tonight if you book through the app. He handed the card to Olivia. My daughter placed it in my palm. Don't come back tomorrow, she said. I don't want you appearing in the wedding pictures looking miserable. You think I'll ruin the image? You refuse to support me. You can't suddenly appear and play the devoted mother. I looked at the gift card. $50. After taking $438,000 and trying to sell my home, they gave me $50 to disappear. Thank you, I said. Olivia breathed a sigh of relief. She placed her hand on my shoulder. After the wedding, I'll visit you at Meadow Pines. Once everything settles down, you'll see that this was for the best. I lowered my head, left the room, walked through the grand hall. No one stopped me. No one asked why the mother of the bride was walking out alone before dinner had even begun. When the large doors closed behind me, I straightened my back. I took out my phone. The recording app was still running. Every word spoken in the reading room had been captured. I photographed the power of attorney document, sent it to Naomi. Then I looked at the $50 gift card. Grant believed it was the price of my silence. Olivia believed she had just demonstrated her power. I slipped the card into my wallet. Tomorrow, they would see it again. Part 4. The company with Inno office. Naomi was waiting for me at her office close to 11 that night. She had printed the transaction records in 3 separate sets. Palmetto Coastal Investments was formed 8 days ago, she said. It has no employees, no operating history, and no physical address. Who paid the formation fee? That is what we are trying to determine. I sat down in front of the computer. The company registration service used an agent in Delaware. The owner's name was hidden, but the card used to pay the formation fee belonged to a man named Julian Cross. I had never heard the name before. Naomi searched the public records. Julian was 34. Occupation, brand consultant, unlicensed real estate broker, and investment content creator. His social media pages were filled with photographs of him standing beside luxury cars, hotels, and rooftop pools. I scrolled down. Olivia appeared in a video. She was sitting beside Julian at a restaurant in Atlanta. The post was dated 3 months earlier. The caption read, "Strategy meeting with the smartest woman I know." I kept looking. There were more photographs. Julian's hand around Olivia's waist. Olivia resting her head on his shoulder during a trip to Miami. One image had been posted while she told me she was traveling with Grant to choose the wedding venue. Julian is more than a business partner, I said. Naomi nodded. It appears so. Does Grant know? Possibly not. We traced the source of the funds used to purchase the house. The $690,000 came from Tidewater Bridge Finance, a short-term lender. The loan was secured by my house. Palmetto Coastal had promised to resell the property within 45 days for at least $1.35 million. Julian plans to buy the house for half its value and flip it, Naomi said. Olivia is helping him. And Grant. I think Grant is simply the person financing the wedding while allowing his name to be used in the scheme. Naomi opened the records for the account, receiving the $438,000. The account was named Collins Wedding Management. Grant was the primary owner. Olivia had access. Another transfer order had already been prepared. Immediately after the wedding, all the money was scheduled to move into an account in the Bahamas. The final beneficiary was not Grant. It was Julian Cross. I sat very still. Olivia had not only stolen from me in order to marry Grant. She was exploiting Grant exactly as she had exploited me. Grant believed they were building a life together. Olivia was preparing to run away with her lover. She let Grant sign the documents. Let Grant communicate with the bank. Let Grant's name appear on the wedding account. If the scheme was exposed, Grant would be the first person investigated. Are there plane tickets? I asked. Naomi had already checked. Olivia and Julian had tickets from Savannah to Nassau at 10:55 p.m. after the wedding. Grant had no ticket. The two of them had also reserved a long-term rental apartment under false names. I looked at the photograph of my daughter smiling beside Julian. She had once been a child who was afraid of the dark. She used to run into my room whenever there was a storm. She used to sit for hours in the workshop watching Samuel work. I did not know exactly when she began believing that love had value only when it came with money and status. Perhaps I had ignored the signs. Perhaps Samuel and I had rescued her too many times, paid off her credit card debt, covered her tuition after she changed majors for the third time, provided the deposit for her apartment. Every time consequences approached, we placed a cushion beneath her so she would never have to hit the ground. We called it love. Perhaps Olivia called it proof that consequences always belonged to someone else. We need to prove that she knew the documents were forged, Naomi said. I have the recording. That may be enough for the bank. But for the conspiracy involving the house sale and the overseas transfer, we need to connect Julian. I thought about the security system in my home. Olivia had unplugged the camera before the movers arrived, but the backup audio system still stored its data. I signed in, opened the recording from 2 nights earlier. At 9:42 p.m., Olivia entered the living room with Julian. They did not know the walls were listening. Part 5. The confession in the living room. Julian opened Samuel's liquor cabinet. He took out the bottle of whiskey we had saved from our 40th anniversary. Olivia sat on the dining table. Did Grant sign? Julian asked. Yes. The power of attorney? Patricia finished altering it. My mother won't know the difference. She used to work with land records. She's been retired for 10 years. She's slower since the surgery. I looked at Naomi. She said nothing. On the screen, Julian poured 2 glasses. What about the insurance money? Grant will move it into the wedding account Thursday morning. He thinks all of it is being used for the wedding? Yes. And the house? Palmetto buys it for $690,000. Once the title insurance clears, you resell it. We'll make at least $500,000. Olivia smiled. Plus the $438,000 from my mother's account. Minus the wedding expenses. The wedding is only a stage. She said it so. Casually. Julian moved closer. Are you really going to marry him? For a few hours. And then, after the reception, I'll say I'm tired. Grant will stay behind with his friends. I'll change clothes and meet you at the airport. What will he do when he wakes up? Probably call the police. He can point directly at you. Olivia took a sip of whiskey. Every important signature belongs to Grant. But you're Evelyn's daughter. I'm only the beneficiary of the account. Grant is the one who submitted the transfer order. Grant hired the notary. Grant spoke with the closing agent. What about the deed? My mother's signature was taken from an old document. Grant thinks she signed before her memory declined. Julian laughed. He actually believes that? Grant believes anything that makes him feel like he's rescuing a helpless woman. And the old lady? Meadow Pines will keep her occupied. She could hire a lawyer. With what money? Olivia raised her glass. By tomorrow, she'll have no money, no house, and no one who believes her word is reliable. I paused the video. My daughter's face was perfectly clear on the screen. Calm, confident, not being coerced by Grant in any way. She was the one in control. Naomi removed her glasses. We have enough. I want to hear the rest. The video continued. Julian asked about the Tidewater loan. Olivia said the house would definitely transfer because the records had already been filed electronically. He asked whether there was any possibility that a trust might appear. She laughed. My mother doesn't have a trust. If she did, I would know. I looked at Naomi. 7 years earlier, Samuel and I had decided not to tell Olivia the details of our asset structure. Not because we did not trust her, but because our estate advisor had explained that a future beneficiary did not need to know every protective mechanism. The house had been transferred into the Hart Heritage Trust. I had the right to live there for the rest of my life, but the legal owner was the independent trust. No one could sell the property without the trustee's signature. The deed Olivia had stolen was only the old deed from before the transfer. It had no current legal effect. Tidewater would not receive its collateral. Palmetto would not own the house. The $690,000 remained trapped in escrow. Julian had borrowed money against an asset he could not purchase. Olivia had transferred $438,000 that she could not receive. And Grant had signed a collection of documents that could send him to prison. The video ended with Olivia kissing Julian on the dining table her father had built. I no longer felt angry. I felt a deep but very quiet sorrow. The child I had loved still existed in my memory. The woman on the screen was the result of thousands of different choices. I could not change those choices, but I could stop her from destroying Samuel's legacy. Naomi downloaded the video onto 3 devices. One copy went to the bank. One was transferred through a secure portal to federal investigators. One was stored offline. The agents want to move tomorrow, she said. At the wedding? The plane tickets establish a flight risk. They can arrest Olivia and Julian before they leave the venue. What about Grant? Grant signed most of the documents. But if he truly was deceived, the extent of his responsibility will depend on how much he knew. I want him to hear the video. Evelyn, our job is not to stage a spectacle. No. I looked at the $50 gift card. But I will not let Olivia stand on a stage, speak about loyalty, and then disappear while everyone believes I willingly gave her everything. Naomi looked at me. You intend to make it public? I intend to let the truth be heard at the exact place where the lie reaches its highest point. Part 6. Samuel's secret. I slept for 3 hours on the sofa in Naomi's office. On Saturday morning, she woke me with a cup of coffee and a file folder. The bank has reversed the $438,000 transfer, she said. Does Olivia know? Not yet. The receiving app still shows it as pending. The house. The title insurance company found the Hart Heritage Trust. They requested the trustee's signature. And when they did not get it, the transaction was rejected. Tidewater's money has been frozen. I took a sip of coffee. When will Julian receive the notice? Possibly during the wedding. Appropriate. Naomi looked at me. Did you bring a suit? I don't wear suits. Samuel once bought you a dark blue one for the county awards ceremony. I smiled. That suit was still stored in the trust office's secure archive. Olivia had not been able to sell it. I changed in the office restroom. The dark blue jacket fit better than I remembered. I put on the pearl earrings Samuel had given me for our 25th anniversary. When I looked in the mirror, I did not see an elderly woman who had been thrown out of her home. I saw the woman who had once testified in court during a deed forgery case involving 17 houses. I saw the wife who had cared for Samuel until his final breath. I saw the mother who had given her daughter more chances than she understood. Before leaving the office, I opened the letter Samuel had written during the last week of his life. Naomi kept it with the trust documents. Evelyn, if there ever comes a day when you feel forced to choose between keeping family close and protecting what is right, remember that closeness means nothing when it is purchased with silence. Do not let anyone use your love as a key that opens every door. Keep our promise. Samuel. I folded the letter, placed it in my jacket pocket. Are you ready? Naomi asked. I was ready the moment I saw the zero balance. 2 federal agents would be at the venue. A state investigator assigned to elder financial abuse would also be present. They were not coming to create a spectacle. They were coming because Olivia and Julian had tickets to leave the country that night. No immediate arrest order had been issued for Grant. The agents wanted to hear his reaction and determine how deeply he had been involved. I did not know whether Grant was a co-conspirator or a foolish man who had been manipulated. But I knew one thing. He had looked at me during the dinner. He knew I had nowhere to sleep. And he gave me $50. Even if he did not know the entire scheme, he had still chosen to stand beside abuse. Not knowing everything does not make a person innocent of everything. Part 7. The perfect wedding bellwether hall had been transformed into a white garden. 240 guests sat facing a flower-covered platform. A string ensemble played near the fountain. A card had been placed on every chair. It read, "Love is the choice to build a future together." I arrived with Naomi. Security checked the guest list. My name was not on it. "Mrs. Hart is not permitted to enter," the manager said. Naomi handed him her business card. "Mrs. Hart holds a beneficial interest in assets that are now under investigation. Before you try to stop her, you may want to speak with the people standing beside the black vehicle across the road." The manager looked over. 2 agents stood near the gate. He stepped aside. When I entered, several guests recognized me. Old friends of Samuel's. A former colleague. A neighbor. They looked at me with confusion. Olivia had told many people I was too frail to attend. Perhaps she had even said I was already in a care facility. Grant saw me first. He hurried toward me. "You should not be here. This is my daughter's wedding." Olivia made herself clear, and I made it clear that the house could not be sold. His face tightened. "The transaction is complete. You should check your phone." Grant took it out. There was no notification. But on the other side of the garden, Julian was staring at his own screen. His face suddenly turned pale. Tidewater had just sent notice that the transaction had been rejected. Julian looked at Olivia. She was wearing her wedding gown and standing beneath the veranda with her bridesmaids. He moved quickly toward her. Olivia saw me. Her eyes widened. She lifted her skirt and walked over. "What are you doing?" "I came to hear your vows." "You have to leave." "What are you afraid I might hear?" Olivia lowered her voice. "How much do you want?" I looked at her. "You think this is about money? You've been withholding money from me for months. It was never yours. It would eventually be mine. That way of thinking is the reason you are in trouble. Are you threatening me on my wedding day?" "No. I'm giving you one final opportunity." "An opportunity to do what?" "Cancel the wedding. Tell the truth. Return the documents. Cooperate with the investigators." She laughed. "You really have lost your mind. What about the 10:55 flight to Nassau?" Her smile vanished. Grant stood beside her. "What flight?" Olivia did not look at him. Julian walked up. "We need to talk." Grant looked at him. "Who are you?" "A business associate." "Whose associate?" Olivia grabbed Grant's hand. "Don't listen to my mother. She is trying to ruin the wedding." The coordinator arrived to say that the ceremony had to begin. Olivia turned away. She did not cancel. She did not confess. She did not stop. She walked down the aisle between flowers paid for with stolen money that had never actually reached her. I sat in the last row. Naomi sat beside me. The agents stood near the exits. The officiant spoke about honesty, about trust, about 2 people sharing every burden. Grant looked at Olivia with the eyes of a man who believed he was about to begin a new life. I almost felt sorry for him, but I remembered the gift card. I remembered the way he had said $50 was enough for me to sleep at a cheap motel. Grant read his vows first. He promised to protect Olivia, promised to trust her, promised to give her everything he had. Then it was Olivia's turn. She took his hands. "I choose you," she said, "today and for all the days that remain." I stood. "No, Olivia." Everyone turned. "You chose Grant only until 10:55 tonight." A murmur spread through the rows of guests. Olivia released Grant's hands. "Get her out of here." 2 security employees moved toward me. An agent raised his badge. "No one leaves the area." The garden fell silent. I walked toward the sound table. Naomi had provided a storage device to the technician at the investigator's request. The large screen behind the platform lit up. My living room appeared. Olivia and Julian were drinking whiskey. Julian's voice came through the speakers. "Are you really going to marry him?" Olivia's voice answered. "For a few hours." Grant stared at the screen. Every trace of color left his face. The video continued. "After the reception, I'll change clothes and meet you at the airport." What about Grant? Every important signature belongs to him. Guests began rising from their chairs. Some took out their phones to record. Olivia rushed toward the screen. An agent blocked her. "That is fake," she screamed. The video showed her kissing Julian on the dining table her father had built. Grant looked at Julian. "You slept with my fiancé?" Julian stepped backward. "She said the two of you were only getting married for appearances." Grant turned to Olivia. "You used me to transfer the money?" "Grant, let me explain. The wedding account is in my name. We can fix this. You were planning to leave tonight?" Olivia did not answer. I took the microphone. "My daughter used an expired and altered power of attorney to transfer $438,000 from her father's life insurance account." I looked at the guests. That money was intended to open a vocational training center for teenagers who have no family support. Olivia shouted, "That was my inheritance. I am still alive." No one laughed. I continued. "She also tried to sell my house for $690,000, less than half its true value." Julian looked at his phone. I turned toward him. "Palmetto Coastal Investments does not own the house." "The documents were recorded," he said. "Recording a document does not make it lawful." I took a file from Naomi. "The house has belonged to the Hart Heritage Trust for 7 years. I hold a lifetime right of residence, but legal title belongs to the trust. Without the trustee's signature, no one can sell it." Julian shook his head. "No, the title insurance company rejected the transaction. Tidewater's $690,000 is frozen." His phone vibrated again. I turned toward Olivia. "The $438,000 has also been recovered. Your transfer never settled." She stared at me. "But the account showed the money. You saw a pending request. You did not understand the protections your father and I put in place. You set us up." Julian shouted. "I did not ask you to borrow money. The old documents were left in the house. I did not ask Olivia to steal them. You knew we would use them. I knew that one day someone might try to exploit my age. I protected my assets. What all of you did was your own choice." 2 agents stepped onto the platform. One read Olivia Hart's name. The other moved toward Julian Cross. Julian turned and ran. He charged through the rows of chairs, knocking over a flower arrangement. Before he made it 10 yards, another agent intercepted him and took him down on the grass. Olivia stood motionless. "You can't arrest me. I never got the money." The agent answered, "A criminal conspiracy does not require the plan to succeed." Grant looked at her. "Did you ever love me?" Olivia turned toward him. "Grant, just answer me." She said nothing. Grant closed his eyes. 2 agents placed Olivia in handcuffs. For the first time, she looked at me like a child. "Mom." I stepped closer. "You have to tell them this is a misunderstanding. Did you use a forged power of attorney?" She was silent. "Did you know the signature on the deed was not mine? You would never have given me anything." "That is not an answer. I am your daughter. That does not give you ownership of my life. You're going to let them take me away? I did not bring you here." She began to cry. "I only wanted a better life. You had many opportunities to build one. I didn't want to live like you." The sentence did not hurt me the way she intended. "Good," I said. "But you still had no right to destroy my life." Grant stood nearby. An investigator told him not to leave the venue. He was not in handcuffs, but the life he believed he had was over. Olivia looked at me again. "Mom, please." I opened my wallet, took out the $50 gift card. I placed it on the flower table beside her wedding gown. Grant said this was enough money to find a cheap room. I looked at the white flowers, the large screen, and the silent guests. "It seems you won't be needing the honeymoon suite anymore." I turned away. Behind me, the agents escorted Olivia and Julian out of the garden. There was no kiss, no declaration of marriage, no applause, only the truth standing in the middle of a wedding built with assets that had never belonged to them. Part 8. The consequences that could not be avoided. 6 months later, I returned to my home. Most of the furniture had been found in storage before it could be sold. Samuel's table returned to the dining room. His chair was placed beside the window. Our wedding photograph was once again above the fireplace. I did not replace the old locks. I installed an entirely new system, not because I feared Olivia would return, but because I had learned that peace must be protected by more than trust alone. The full $438,000 was restored. The home transaction was canceled. Tidewater recovered its loan funds from escrow and turned its records over to prosecutors. Julian was charged with conspiracy to commit financial fraud, making false statements in loan documents, and attempting to transfer assets overseas. Patricia Doyle, The notary who authenticated the forged documents admitted that Olivia and Grant had paid her to certify my signature when I was not present. Her commission was revoked. She cooperated with investigators in exchange for a reduced sentence. Grant was not completely innocent. He knew there were problems with the power of attorney. He knew I had not consented to the sale of the house. He knew the money had been taken without permission. But he did not know Olivia planned to run away with Julian. He pleaded guilty to assisting fraud and making false statements in a transaction. He received probation, was ordered to reimburse investigative costs, and lost his real estate license. Olivia accepted a plea agreement. She was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. The first time I visited her, she wore a gray uniform and sat behind a metal table. No wedding gown, no jewelry, no phone, no Julian. She looked at me in silence. "Do you hate me?" she asked. "No, then why did you let this happen?" "I did not let you forge documents." "I mean, why didn't you stop it sooner?" "I gave you a chance to stop at the wedding. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You intended to make a false vow in front of everyone." She lowered her head. "I thought that if I had enough money, I would never have to be afraid again." Afraid of what? Being ordinary. I looked at my daughter. Perhaps that was the first time she had been honest. "Your father was an ordinary man," I said. "He worked in a shop, wore the same coat for 10 years, drove an old truck." "I know, but hundreds of people came to his funeral, not because he was wealthy, because he made them feel that they had value." Tears ran down Olivia's face. "I'm not like Dad. You can still choose who you will become after you leave this place. Will you forgive me?" "Forgiveness does not erase consequences." "I know, and I cannot trust you yet." She nodded. "But you still came. Because you are still my daughter." She looked at me. "Love doesn't disappear?" "No, then why does it hurt like this?" "Because love is not permission." We sat in silence. I did not promise that everything would return to the way it had been. Some things should not return to the way they were. Trust after betrayal is not restored by tears. It is rebuilt through time, accountability, and consistent actions when no one is watching. Olivia was only beginning to understand that. Part 9. Samuel's final promise. The Samuel Hart Skills Center opened on an October morning. The old warehouse near the riverfront had been renovated. One side held a woodworking shop. The other contained an electrical training area. In the back were a computer room, a career counseling office, and a small kitchen. 18 teenagers joined the first class. Some had recently aged out of foster care. Some had slept in cars. Some had never had an adult tell them they were capable of building a decent future. I stood in front of the sign bearing Samuel's name. There was no stone statue, no luxurious room, only the sounds of saws, hammers, and young people learning to believe in their own abilities. On the wall near the entrance was something Samuel used to say: "Don't just give someone a chair. Teach them how to build the chair, sell it, and construct a room to put it in." We also opened a financial protection program for senior citizens. Every month, Naomi came to speak about powers of attorney. I taught people how to examine real estate records. We explained that a power of attorney does not transfer ownership. Its scope should be clearly defined. It should have an expiration date. A revocation should be sent in writing to banks, hospitals, and every institution holding a copy. Large accounts should have transaction alerts. Real estate should be enrolled in a notification service that reports newly filed documents. A trusted contact does not necessarily need the authority to withdraw money. And an older adult should never give every password, document, and decision-making right to a single person. Some families believe that precautions like these demonstrate a lack of trust. I disagree. Locking your door does not mean you hate your neighbors. Wearing a seatbelt does not mean you expect an accident. A sound estate plan does not accuse your children of planning to betray you. It simply ensures that love is not the only barrier between your life and someone else's terrible decision. On the afternoon of the opening, after everyone had gone home, I stood inside the workshop. A 19-year-old named Marcus was finishing his first wooden box. The corners were uneven. The surface was still rough, but he looked at it as though he had just built a house. "Mrs. Hart," he said, "do you think Mr. Samuel would have liked it?" I ran my hand over the wood. "He would have shown you 3 places that needed fixing." Marcus looked worried. "But after that, he would have put it somewhere everyone could see." The young man smiled. I turned toward Samuel's photograph on the wall. "We did it," I whispered. "I once thought justice meant watching Olivia being led away from her wedding. It did not. That was only consequence. True justice was the money still reaching the place Samuel intended. It was the house not being turned into profit for Julian. It was other senior citizens learning how to protect their autonomy before it was too late. It was a child without a family walking into a workshop and leaving with a skill that could support a life. Olivia mistook my silence for helplessness. Grant believed my age meant I could not understand documents. Julian believed a shell company could turn someone else's property into his own. All of them made the same mistake. They saw a 70-year-old woman, but they did not see the experience. They did not see the layers of protection Samuel and I had built. They did not see that I had spent most of my life uncovering exactly the kind of fraud they were attempting. Age can turn hair gray. It can slow a person's steps, but it does not erase wisdom. It does not destroy dignity. And it does not give children the right to treat their parents like inheritance accounts waiting to be unlocked. I still love Olivia, but I no longer confuse love with surrender. A mother does not help her child by concealing the child's wrongdoing. Sometimes the final act of love is allowing a child to face consequences large enough that they can no longer continue lying to themselves. I locked the center's doors after dark. Through the glass, I could see the illuminated sign bearing Samuel's name. Our promise was still there. Not sold, not transferred away, not transformed into an extravagant wedding that lasted only a few hours. Olivia once told me I had already had my life. She was right about one thing. I had lived a life built through work, love, responsibility, and promises kept. But what she failed to understand was that a person's life does not become worthless simply because they have grown old. The future does not belong only to the young. Honor has no expiration date. And parents' property does not become their children's property simply because the children have grown impatient. If my story reminds you of someone whose family is pressuring them about money, a home, or a power of attorney, share this story with them. Subscribe to the channel to continue hearing stories of betrayal, courage, and people who were underestimated but were never truly powerless. And leave a comment telling me where you are listening from. Because sometimes, a story shared at the right moment can help someone realize that they still have choices. They still have a voice. And they still have time to lock the door before someone else tries to walk through it.